Quote, a false flag operation is underway. That is according to Caracas, which says amid joint military drills carried out between Trinidad and Tobago with America, Donald Trump's plan has apparently been put into action. Because Caracas has nabbed now a group of mercenaries with ties to the CIA.
Venezuela reports that it has captured a mercenary group with direct information from the U.S. intelligence agency, the CIA, and has determined that a false flag attack is underway from waters bordering Trinidad and Tobago, or from Trinidadian or Venezuelan territory, intended to provoke a full-scale military confrontation against our country.
Now, the Venezuelan government has also accused Trinidad of acting as a military colony of Washington, saying its moves are creating a serious threat across the region. Of course, all of this as Donald Trump has authorized the CIA to conduct covert operations inside Venezuela. And the U.S. Department of War has been unleashed, bombing all sorts of little boats off the Venezuelan coast, all the while insisting they are narco vessels. Well, let's break it down with RT's Shay Bowes. He's got so much more to offer.
So, as Donald Trump tells us he might soon intervene on the ground in Venezuela to kill people bringing drugs into our country, you'd be forgiven for thinking you'd seen this movie before. Well, that's probably because you have.
I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country, okay? We're going to kill them. So now they're coming in by land, and even the land is concerned because I told them that's going to be next. You know, the land is going to be next.
Now, in addition to warning of impending ground operations in Venezuela, President Trump also admitted that he's authorized the CIA to conduct covert actions inside the country. Now, that might also sound familiar because back in 2020, a failed attempt to overthrow Maduro called Operation Gideon was carried out by ex-Venezuelan soldiers and former American Special Forces operators. Several U.S. citizens were among 13 so-called terrorists captured by the Venezuelans, including employees of Silvercorp, a Florida-based security company whose owner, Jordan Goudreau, later claimed responsibility for the failed incursion.
Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo were behind this directly. It was a contract ordered by the State Department as a covert operation against Venezuela.
So who is this boss of Silvercorp, Jordan Goudreau? Well, he's an ex-Green Beret and claims he was the fall guy for the CIA's Operation Gideon, which was sanctioned at the highest levels of the U.S. government. Later, in an interview with the Grey Zone's Max Blumenthal, he revealed detailed information on the failed plan to invade Venezuela and overthrow President Nicolas Maduro. He's now facing years in prison on federal arms trafficking charges.
Cartel of the Suns, you're telling me that narcotic cartel was originally a creation of the CIA?
So I think there's a great, Max Blumenthal on Zone he's got a great video of it. It's very short. It's about 7 minutes, and he talks about how the cartel Suns came into being. It's a fabrication of the CIA largely.
Why would the CIA get into bed with drug cartels in Latin America? Is it about black budget? Is it about bags of cash? Well, what is it about?
I think that's absolutely, it has to be about the money.
Of course, none of this is a surprise. The U.S. has form when it comes to interfering in the sovereign affairs of its neighbors. Now, back in the 1980s in Nicaragua, Ronald Reagan's administration feared the Marxist-Sandinista government would be a launchpad for communist insurgency in Central America. So the U.S. government provided covert and overt military aid and financial support to the opponents of the Sandinistas, the Contras, who Reagan once referred to as the moral equals of the founding fathers of the United States.
I've spoken recently of the freedom fighters of Nicaragua. You know the truth about them. You know who they're fighting and why. They are the moral equal of our founding fathers and the brave men and women of the French resistance. We cannot turn away from them.
Reagan convinced Congress to provide $100 million of aid to the Contras and their supporters, but there was a slight problem. The Contras were massively involved in the cocaine trade, but that didn't stop the CIA using them against the Sandinistas. Even if the drugs were all ending up in the United States. Eventually, in 1984, the Congress banned military aid to the Contras. The efforts of Reagan to circumvent the ban led to the infamous Iran-Contra scandal.
The subcommittee report included findings indicating payments to drug traffickers by the U.S. Department of State of funds authorized by the Congress for humanitarian assistance to the Contras, in some cases after the traffickers had been indicted by federal law enforcement agencies on drug charges. The subcommittee concluded that there was substantial evidence of drug smuggling on the part of individual Contras, pilots who flew supplies, mercenaries who worked for the Contras, and Contra supporters throughout the region.
Now, you'd think the CIA would have learned their lesson in Nicaragua, right? Well, maybe not. Back in 2021, the Haitian president was assassinated during an armed attack in the early hours at their home in Port-au-Prince. Around 20 Colombians and dual Haitian-American citizens were responsible. Men posing as DEA agents easily entered the presidential residence, demonstrating the power of the U.S. agency in the region. One of the men involved was Joseph Vincent, a former DEA informer. Now, he was handed a life sentence by a U.S. court for his role in the assassination. Meanwhile, the Biden administration claimed to know absolutely nothing about it.
These reports are absolutely false. The United States condemns this heinous act. These false reports are nothing more than that, just false reports.
Well, it seems patently obvious that consecutive U.S. governments and presidents have used the shadowy narco world to their advantage. And when it goes wrong, they then claim absolute ignorance. So, as Trump signals his intentions in Venezuela, remember, Caracas controls the largest oil reserves on Earth. So, maybe it's the White House's obsession with black gold, not white powder, that's really the target in Washington.